All right, welcome back to Stumblin Forward. I am your host, one of your hosts, Kristen Herman.
And I'm Monica Ortega.
Awesome. And today we're actually speaking to Francesca Trotman. Francesca is the managing director and founder of Love the Oceans, a marine conservation charity in Mozambique. Now I'm going to say that again. Mozambique.
Wait, you say it. Francesca, say it.
Mozambique. Okay. And I even looked it up, but I still said it wrong. So Mozambique, I'm going to say it again. So Francesca is the managing director and founder of Love the Oceans, a marine conservation charity in Mozambique. She holds a master's in marine biology and likes to stay close to the research and community, overseeing the majority of programs in Mozambique. LTO is working to establish a marine protected area in Mozambique. They were recently recognized as one of 15 global grassroots #Forces for Change by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, receiving international recognition for their work. Thank you so much for being on the show, Francesca. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, other than the intro stuff, but all the goodness.
Yeah, well, actually, you could tell us, yourself, and then Love the Oceans, everything you want to talk about.
What do you want to know about me?
All the dirty stuff.
How did you get started? No. When did you start scuba diving? When were you born? I don't know.
Well, I was born back in 1993. So I'm 27. And I started diving when I was 13. So I've been doing it a while. And for me, like my two loves growing up were music and scuba diving. And I chose marine biology as a degree at university because it was just like, I knew I liked things underwater. So it was like the academic version of just scuba diving.
Perfect.
Yeah. I chose marine biology. I went to uni and did that. And then when I was at the end of my second year, I took an internship in Mozambique. And that's when I saw like my first shark killing. And sharks had been my like animal that was my thing growing up. Like everyone else was drawing boys' names on their planners and things like that. Sharks everywhere. Like my email address when I was 13 was "sharks are the coolest dudes."
Oh my gosh. So like during Shark Week, I can just see you just like, you're just cuddled up, you got your blanket, and you're like ready for the entire week not moving. That's what I feel like it would be like.
And none of my family are like outdoorsy at all. So they were literally like, who is she? Like my brother always joked that one of us is definitely adopted because we're chalk and cheese.
That's funny.
And so went and did an internship in Mozambique and saw a shark killing event, which was obviously not great. Like humans were killing a couple of sharks on our beach. And so then I was talking with the fishermen. And initially I was like really angry because your like initial reaction to something so like what is perceived to be barbaric, right? From a like Westerner's point of view. I hadn't seen anything like that before. So I was seeing this for the first time, and I'd seen like stuff on TV, you know, in documentaries and stuff, but it's quite different to like see it in real life. So I was kind of angry at the fishermen to start with. Had some heated debates, which is hilarious because now I work with the exact same people work together. But yeah, so that was back in 2013, so a while ago. And then I went back to university and did an integrated master's. So then for my master's year, I went back out to Mozambique and like spent 4.5 months with the shark fishermen there, learning about the shark fin trade. And that was what I did my master's on. And then when I was writing up my master's thesis, I was getting the results that you would think in terms of the sustainability of the shark fin trade, i.e. not sustainable. I wanted to, it wasn't something I could walk away from basically and just live the rest of my life knowing that it was something that was happening in that little corner of the world. So, and it was such a widespread problem as well. Like when I say that little corner of the world, that little corner of the world is representative of a lot of areas through developing nations. And through developed nations as well. Shark finning is a massive global problem. So I started the organization Love the Oceans initially just to combat the shark fishing and work to eradicate that. But then basically I founded it in the November of 2014, and then I graduated in the July of 2015. So I had like 8 months of like planning essentially, and I was like looking up what makes conservation strategies successful, what like mistakes that people have made, how I could like build the like most like likely to be successful plan kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where I changed the mission from stopping the shark fin trade to establishing a marine protected area as a whole in our region, because that encompasses the shark finning, because obviously shark finning can't happen in a marine protected area, but it also encompasses loads of other animals and habitats and stuff that we have in the area. And it also, a marine protected area increases tourism, which helps humans and provides an income, an alternate source of income to unsustainable fishing methods. So that's kind of like how the mission evolved and how the organization evolved, and I've just been doing that since. So my whole life is Love the Oceans.
Wow.
I like that. You brought up a good point too, of like looking at where other nonprofits had failed and looking at where they succeeded. I feel like that's a step that so many people miss, especially in entrepreneurship. They're like, I like this thing, I'm going to try to make money at it. So like to actually do the research ahead of time, do you feel like that's kind of set you up a little bit more for success?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always been, well, Andrea, our executive director, she came on board in the first year as well. And she was also a massive game changer. I think she's a bit older, and she basically was my mentor, and still is kind of, slash best friend. And I think having guidance from someone that's older, more experienced, well, not necessarily older, but more experienced and her skill set as well was so different to mine. She's not a marine scientist at all. She'd worked in corporate environmental consultancy for like, I don't know, 10 years. And then she'd gone back to university to Harvard and done an environmental management master's. And then she came and volunteered with us in Mozambique, and that's how we met. So her experience was like really, really different to mine, but it was great having, like, I was 21 when I started it. I didn't know anything about contracts. I had no idea about insurance, like
the business side.
Yeah, like I had no idea how to do any of that. And like, yeah, I was like trying my best, but I'd only ever worked for someone else in like summer jobs and jobs through uni and stuff. I hadn't ever like run my own business before. And there's so much stuff that like it's, I don't think there's that much guidance out there in terms of like government guidance and stuff. It's just like, go and do it and learn as you go. It's very much, I feel like starting your own business or charity or whatever is always I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's always a very steep learning curve.
It is.
I wanted
definitely
to ask you, like, because I think you're our first nonprofit business that we've had on here, and obviously that's very different. So how do you manage that? I mean, obviously the profits are for charity. So how do you keep a roof over your head? How do you do all of this in a nonprofit world? That's more just me wanting to know than anything.
It's quite interesting actually, because also depending on what country you're talking about, there's different like rules and regulations around it. And this has again been something that I've learned as we've gone. So when we first started, I was told, oh, charities are so much hard work. Like, do not set up a charity. You're going to spend like months on the paperwork. Just set up a non-profit. It's much less paperwork. So I set it up as a non-profit, which is just a company limited by guarantee in the UK, because it's not actually a non-profit registration. Like an actual like tick, this is a non-profit kind of thing, the same way that you do when you get like a charity number. You don't get that with a non-profit. So it's down to like the director to decide how they want to like structure the organization. So non-profit doesn't mean that you're not paid or anything like that. Like you can still pay staff, so I still get a salary and stuff, but it just means that any extra money that in a company you would be able to say like, oh, I'm going to have that in dividends or take it. You don't do that. That just goes back into the projects, and you have to like buy spends a bit more and things like that.
Awesome.
but then in 2000, I think it was like 17, we were looking at loads of funding opportunities, and it was really annoying because loads of them were like, oh, you have to have a registered charity number, and we were functioning as a charity. Like, we were doing everything for the good of the oceans. Like, this wasn't a business. Like, it is a business, but it's like, this wasn't for profit. This was very definitely for the people that we work with and the environment that we work in. And so it was really annoying because we had the structure of a charity but weren't registered as a charity. So I was like, you know what, it can't be that hard. Like I'm sure I can register as a charity.
Yeah.
It can't be that hard. And I looked it up, and it literally took like 2 weeks max, and it was less paperwork than any scientific proposal I'd ever done.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so easy. And
so easy.
There's like, oh, it would take 6 months to process. So I just emailed the Charities Commission, and I was like, guys, there's some funding that we really, really want to apply for. Is there any way that you could like bump us up the list? And they'd done it a week later.
That's great. Usually they'd be like, no, we'll wait and hang on.
That's just ask. I think some people wouldn't ask.
Exactly. Yeah. Put yourself out there, and just being able to ask is like impressive for sure.
Like, the way that we run is we have the non-profit still, because we also take, like, our wage comes from running ecotourism trips. So we run like trips where people come out to Mozambique, obviously
nice.
But like pre-COVID, we were running come up to Mozambique, and that's like students who help us with research, and then more of like a little bit of tourism and stuff like that, and that funds all of our research. And because under UK law that's a tour operator, you can't be a charity and do that. So we have the non-profit sector to like do that, and then we have our charity, which is like we can apply for grants through, and we can do like a lot of our charity work through as well.
Nice.
So it's kind of two organizations.
What was the first like big project that you had to work on or got to work on with Love the Oceans, where like kind of just launched you guys into like, okay, this is like us starting something? Was it a research project? Was it a cleanup project?
It's difficult because it like everything happened in like small steps. I meet people now and they're like, wow, you guys do so much. How did you do that? And I'm like, it didn't all happen at once. Like, I didn't just wake up and go, we're going to do all of this stuff. Like, small bits and building and so I guess like, because the thing is that I did the fisheries research for my master's before the organization actually existed, and that still is like one of the major data sets that we work on. So for me that wasn't like a step, because it was just like continuing what I'd already done before. I think probably working with the schools, that was quite a big step, because that was like involving other people in what we do. And that was cool, like talking to the principals and being like, is this something that you'd be like, would you like some help with marine conservation education? Like, do you think this would be appropriate? All of that kind of stuff. And getting like the stamp of approval. And we literally had like a letter with a stamp being like, yes, you can partner with us.
Yes.
I feel like I should connect you. I just met a girl on Clubhouse who's a professional mermaid, but she uses it for ocean conservation. So she goes into elementary schools.
And she like, oh, that's cute.
She's a mermaid, but she teaches about saving the ocean.
It's like,
I love it.
It's like public speaking as a mermaid.
Yeah.
But to teach about I've been looking, hopefully, like I wanted to take a trip like the one you were talking about, where I wanted to do ocean cleanup. Obviously, I'm in Chicago. I do not live by an ocean. So I could clean up, the lake. But I wanted to do that for a long time, but it's hard because most people are looking for a donation and they don't have the trips like, in line with it. Not that I found. So that's really great that you guys have that.
Yeah.
I mean, we started our cleanup stuff. We were always doing it. This is the thing, like we were always doing it, and then it's more like when you make it official kind of thing. So we were always obviously like a group of scientists, all marine scientists. You're generally going to pick stuff up when you're on the beach, because otherwise it's a bit weird that you're just walking past trash and not picking it up.
Yeah.
But we were recording it, we were doing it and not recording it, and then we were like, well, actually this is a whole data set that we're not like
using.
We could be collecting it and logging it and looking at like whether it's lightly international or local, and then what can be done off the back of that, and then also how it can be managed, because there's no like recycling units where we are, and there's not really any roads, like we're really rural, so no one like comes and gets the trash. Most trash is just burnt, and obviously burning plastic is a whole other situation.
Thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of started logging stuff in 2016, and then after that we started looking at what to do with the trash, and then we started an eco brick project, which is basically like cutting the trash up, washing it, cutting it up, and drying it and packing it into like basically like 2 liter like Coke bottles type thing. And then we use that in construction projects because they form like bricks, so you have to meet like a minimum weight. You can't squish it or anything. It's like properly hard and like a brick.
What? So you're using the plastic to create brick to build.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
We're working on a few different things because that's quite labor intensive. So at the moment, we're working with a couple of students to try and design a few different ways, because actually in construction there's loads of different ways that you can reuse plastic and stuff, and glass.
Wow.
And things like that. Like you can crush glass up and use it as aggregate. You can use the foam, like the polystyrene foam.
Yeah.
You can break that up and use it in bricks, and it makes the bricks lighter.
That's amazing.
There's loads of stuff that you can do, that you can like put plastic into it and like hopefully, because the thing is that it's not a long-term solution, right? Because you've still got the brick with the plastic in a wall. In 20 years, if that wall's torn down, you've still got the plastic problem.
Yeah.
But the hope is that in 20 years we will have a better way of like dealing
recycling
and
doing it
in like a manageable form, rather than like spread out over the beach and through the ocean.
Well, that's the thing, is like, again, education is I don't think people completely understand how recycling works. And, you know, obviously they know like, oh, I can reuse this for something, but it's still there, like you're saying. And when we do figure out what we can actually do with that plastic and like styrofoam and glass and all that, it will be a great time, great day. But that's amazing that you have like that education, like this can actually be used for something else.
Yeah.
And we're trying to take what we're finding in the ocean and actually utilizing it for something great. That's amazing. That's awesome.
So where do you see this going in like 5-10 years?
Ooh, good question.
There's a lot of parts to it.
Yeah, there is.
And it's difficult because like I think like half my job is just daydreaming, because I'm just like, what can we do? Oh yeah, and then like trying to sketch out how that could happen in the future, which I really enjoy. Like I love how diverse the job is in terms of my roles and what that consists of, and I can choose on a day-to-day basis exactly what I want to do. It does mean I end up procrastinating with the bits that I potentially don't enjoy quite as much, like proposals. I've been used to do a proposal all week where I've been like, this other work is very important. But we do have a strategy document which we try roughly to stick to, but to be honest, we do projects more like as and when, if it's needed. So and also when the opportunity presents itself, like if I get connected to like someone who's got a particular expertise in a certain area that we want, but we hadn't planned that project for another 2 years, then I'll be like, actually, let's bump that project up and utilize this person's free time right now because this is cool. And that's kind of what happened with we've got a sustainable fishing project where we're working with the fishermen to transition away from net fishing in the area to kayak fishing, because net fishing catches a lot of other animals. So there was literally a baby humpback whale caught like month ago because it just drowned in the net.
Oh my gosh.
But there's like turtles and mantas and loads of other stuff that's caught through netting. And moving towards rod and line fishing, obviously you've just got one hook on the end of a line, so it's a lot.
And they don't do anything with those animals that are caught. They're like looking for something specific. So then the turtles or the baby, like they just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes people eat, depending on what the animal is, but sometimes people eat them just because they've been caught, but they're not the reason that they put the net in the water.
Yeah.
They're just a sad byproduct.
Yeah.
So like that project, we actually weren't going to launch that project until like I think we planned like 2023, but then COVID meant that we saw a massive increase in the number of nets being used because everyone lost their jobs and poverty levels skyrocketed in our area. So everyone was turning to the sea to be able to eat and survive and earn money. And so we saw a massive increase in the number of nets because net fishing, you put the net in and you leave it. So it's like the easiest method of fishing.
Yeah.
And so then we decided to launch that project way earlier and bump it up and did that one. So it's a bit difficult, but our mission to establish the marine protected area, I would hope that we're going to have that in the next 3 years. So fingers crossed that happens. That will be a locally managed, nationally recognised marine area. And that was the proposal I'm meant to be working on this week. For that protected area. Yeah, so hopefully that will be happening in the next 3 years. Then we've got loads of different projects. So we've got like a period poverty project that we want to launch in the next 2 years with the women in our area, because we have basically we teach swimming as part of what we do, because with the creation of the marine protected area, job creation is going to be in the marine ecotourism space. And a lot of people can't swim, like 95% of people can't swim in our area.
Wow, really?
Yeah, huge.
That's crazy.
People that can't swim, because we have a lot of rip tides and we get to a lot of drowning, so there's a massive fear of the ocean.
Got it.
It also means that people aren't really passionate about protecting it because no one's seeing it and no one's enjoying it safely. It's more of a fear factor. So we started swimming lessons to like combat that, and that kind of feeds into a pipeline of talent. And when the kids get to 18, we offer them extra qualifications and diving, and like 2 of them are now heading up our turtle research project and helping with a project with Leeds.
Yeah. So when you're doing the swimming lessons, I'm assuming you're taking a boat out and putting them in like open, or are you like, okay,
swimming pool.
It's a pool. Okay, good. Yeah. Well, I'm like, I know that they can't go right into the, from the beach. I was like, but there could be like a little, like, sandbar area. Just throw them in.
When they get to advanced level, we then do like transition to open ocean few sessions where we like do a bit more around like tides and how to see and stuff. Yeah. And water floats on them. But cool. The basic idea being that obviously if people fall off boats, they have the skills to be able to swim back to the boat and survive that kind of basic level, but also it's to progress through this pipeline and get more involved in what we do. But what we've seen is that because of periods and lack of access to menstrual products, women just drop off, and that levels of women, like, they start their periods and they don't come swimming anymore. So you get to like age 14 in our groups and there's just no women left.
Wow.
So, and that obviously, as a woman running an organisation, and Andrea, our director, is also a woman, we're pretty keen to get more women involved in our work, and seeing that massive drop off, that's something that we're working to combat. So that's why we want to launch the period poverty piece, but there needs to be a lot of research done on like how to culturally handle it as well, and then bringing in like expertise from the main city in the education around like the reproductive system and things like that too.
That's so interesting, because I feel like it comes out of, I mean, obviously, we don't have that problem. Like, we don't see myself, like, I can't go in the water during my period or anything like that. So having that, I mean, I wouldn't even think about that being a problem.
But if you don't have the menstrual products.
Exactly. So that's really interesting that you're doing something so unique with that. What would you tell someone who wants to like start a nonprofit of their own? What would you tell them to like do for themselves?
Make sure that you're really passionate about it.
Okay.
Anyone wanting to start their own businesses, not even just a nonprofit, like, make sure you're absolutely obsessed with it, because you need to be to stick by it. And in my like experience as a young woman as well, being like 21 when I started, I was told like a million trillion times that I would not succeed, mainly by old white men, but whatever. And ignoring those naysayers. At the beginning, I took it like really personally, and I really struggled not to like fight with every person that was like, no, you can't do it. And then after a while, you kind of have to just tune it out and just be like, whatever, that's more about them and what they think they can achieve rather than me. They don't know me and they don't know what I'm made of. So you do just kind of have to ignore those people. But yeah, make sure you're obsessed with it. Make sure that you're kind of, I'm not sure I would say I was willing and able to sacrifice my social life and sleep.
Byproduct of it.
Yeah. So like be prepared to sacrifice, whether that's like financially. I think everyone does at the beginning of businesses. Like it's so difficult to start your own business or charity or nonprofit, and finances are a massive problem at the beginning. You often have to take out loans and then like pay that back as well. So you have to be prepared to take risks, and just have faith that you, like, believe in yourself that you'll be able to get like pull through and meet your goals. And then I think also planning, like I'm a planner and I like writing stuff down and being like, that's what we're going to do in 2 years and that's what we're going to do in 3 years, and have like projected dates of things.
Kind of manifestation as well, you know, yeah, pushing yourself.
And a business plan.
Yeah, business plan, manifestation. Yeah.
4 years before I put together a business plan, I was like, oh my gosh, this is game changing.
Finally.
Yeah, business plans, super useful, and manifestation to a certain degree. I read a thing the other day that was like I think it was Jim Carrey, I want to say, and he like wrote down on a piece of paper that he was going to make $1 million by a certain date, and then like the day before that date, he found the piece of paper and he'd made his first $1 million.
Yeah. It was the same thing with Jim Carrey. He like wrote himself a check for $1 million and put it in his wallet until he actually, that's it. Yeah. It's like, I'm sure a lot of people have done that, but Jim Carrey, he did that. And then right now I'm good at that. I don't have checks. It's checks anymore. But yeah, when he had Dumb and Dumber, he like made his first $1 million, and I'm sure that check wasn't even valid anymore, but like,
yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of mistakes do you think like you've made in the process that maybe could help other people?
Contracts. Get a contract as soon as possible. Don't do anything without it. I was so naive when I first started, and I was just like, everyone's lovely, everyone wants to help, it'll be lovely, we'll all work together. That is not the case in the real world. And unfortunately, money makes the world go round. So if people see that there's money in something, they will screw you over to try and get the best for them. So, well, maybe not will, but may screw you over. So contracts is 100%. That is probably like my biggest regret, that I didn't have contracts in place sooner even. Mistakes, contracts, don't hire friends. I hired friends. That was such a mistake.
Kristen, you're fired.
Bye. See you later. We weren't really friends when you hired me, right? It just happens over time. Can you be friends after a little while? Okay, cool.
I'm my best mate, and that's fine. We work together.
Okay,
but I hired someone from uni way back in the day, and I mean, like, we're no longer friends.
Oh no. That's such a bummer.
Well, it's just really difficult, because if they're your mate, then they don't often, for me at least, they didn't respect that I was in the position of authority and that I was the one that was responsible. So when I told them that I needed them to do something, I meant I needed them to do something, not do it tomorrow.
The same thing. I mean, I gave people like start times for the day, and they would show up 2 hours late, and they'd be like, man, it doesn't really matter. It's like, yeah, it does.
2 hours late, gosh. You know, it's a little different.
Well, we're running out of time here, but this has been amazing. So where can people find you and learn more and keep up with the journey and all the goodness?
So check out our website, www.lovetheoceans.org, and everyone can follow us on our socials as well, at Love the Oceans on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of the different platforms. And there's a donation page on there as well. And if you do want to come and get involved in some of our programs, then
I'll do it.
oh, no.
Sign me up.
come when COVID's gone away, then
yeah.
We'll have to do something with the travel show where we come and do an ocean.
Cleanup. Oh my God, that'd be so amazing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That sounds good.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. If you guys are listening right now, be sure to give us 5 stars, leave a review, all the goodness. This video that you're listening to or watching will be up on YouTube, so you can follow it there. And yeah, we appreciate you so much for coming on. My name is Monica. I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Kristen Herman.
And we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Francesca.